Hi everyone, welcome back to week number 2 with the large commission. I just want to quickly say thank you to everybody that has been tuning in and watching this big piece of art get completed. It's been such an exciting process for me, and it just is even more great having you all be able to share this experience with me. Okay, let's tune in to see what I'm working on here. I have canvas number 1 sitting on top of canvas number 2. Canvas number 1 is obviously not done, but it's got, I think, probably 2 or 3 layers on it. And canvas 1 here has 1 layer. And I'm working on the second one. And so I have number 1 sitting on top of number 2 so that I can kind of start to line up that image. And yes, I'm not really talking to myself. I do have my studio helper with me. She spent the weekend. As you can see, these pieces are really large. There's no way I can lift them by myself. And so I'm just laying down the foundation for canvas number 2. And I don't have my headphones on, so you can see I'm painting a little bit slower because I am having some dialogue with her. And of course my little template there has fallen down as usual. And I think I spilled some paint on the floor, which is what I'm wiping up because, as you know, I have 2 little furry critters. And should they walk on that plastic, get little paint on their paws, then you never know. I'm going to have paw marks everywhere in my studio, so I don't want that. Okay, I digress. I forgot what I was doing. Okay, so what I have here, I want you guys to know that this liquid is very watered down. And by watered down, I mean there's a good mixture of golden high flow medium in a bucket with some water, as well as some acrylic high flow paint by Golden again. So I'm applying light washes to build up that color. I'm keeping it pretty translucent right now. That's just because of the sheer weight of everything. I don't want there to be an overwhelming amount of paint on my canvases. It's not, I did use high grade or a really high duck count for my canvas. I think it's 12 ducks, which is really thick and really hard to stretch. Okay, so I'm still laying down the color. I think I do go into, this is probably high speed scrubbing right now. I keep using the word scrubbing. I don't know why I do that. Time lapse. Just because you kind of already have seen me lay the foundation down on canvas 1, so we can kind of go quickly past canvas 2. So again, now I'm starting to build up that color, adding darker and darker washes of kind of in the same family. This is a little bit more of that blue green, which is why I refer to it as the Blue Lagoon, even though that's not the color I'm supposed to be going for. And you'll see that on my later work, how I slowly transition. You can see I'm Italian right there, right? So expressive. So you'll start to see as I keep releasing these videos how I start to change and evolve that color more to the blue that I need to have. It's more of a really soft gray blue. And I have to say that $2 squeegee from the dollar store is fantastic. Not only does it clean your windows and your shower, if you have glass in your shower, but it's super cool to paint with. So there's lots of standing back, paying attention to what I'm doing. With a piece that's this large, I don't really have the ability to go back too far. You'll see later on at the very end of this video, I change the position of my camera, and it gives you a little bit of a better angle as to how big this piece will be, even though right now you're only seeing 2 canvases together. There is 1 more that goes at the bottom. And so normally you would want to stand back, 10 feet to some degree so that you can see the overall image. So I'm at a disadvantage with that, but because I kind of already know what the image is going to look like, because they have picked an earlier work of mine, I can visually see that in my mind, and I'm always working towards that final image, even though it's divided into 3 right now. Dabbing with a paper towel just takes some excess paint off. Sometimes I put a little bit too much on, there's no need for that. And see those cool little squeegee marks? That's just the paint being wet still, and removing some of it. Leave some really cool textural marks into your work. This piece probably won't have that at the end, but they're still fun to do. Even, you know, it's always fun, like even in the process of making a painting, is to practice new kind of marks. It doesn't mean that they're going to be in the final image, but they're all things that you can learn to do for new projects or new pieces as your work evolves as an abstract artist. Initially, when I first had that canvas put on canvas 2, if you notice, I was really nervous. I didn't know, like, I didn't want this canvas to fall down. I didn't want it to get, ripped or torn. And I was worried on how canvas 2 was going to feel having all that weight on top of it. So I was really kind of being delicate when I was first putting a couple of brush strokes on that canvas. I was a bit concerned about how this would all work out, but so far so good. Everything's going well. My railing hasn't fallen down, which is probably a good thing. And so I think the high speed kind of came off there. It's always interesting. It's because it's like 20 minutes of my video. It's an hour of me watching myself paint, which is sometimes a bit painful for me. But if you notice how I'm not dancing, there's no music, I'm moving slow. It completely changes how I paint when I have headphones on and music is playing. It doesn't seem to bother me though, having conversations while I paint. I just paint slower. It still helps me to kind of not really pay attention to what I'm doing, even though I'm still kind of focused on my painting. Some of my best work has been done while I've been on the phone. It's kind of a strange little phenomenon. I think when you think too much about what you're doing, your work gets very, very, very tight. And that's, for me, that's the last thing I want, is really tight work. Okay, so I have, I think you can see here, I've switched over. I've moved my camera to a different position. And this gives you a bit more of a glimpse. There is some other stuff coming very shortly. And I do apologize. There is some shaky camera. So it's very short. So kind of enjoy the ride. I think I'm just cleaning out my brush here right now. And I've grabbed some high flow magenta golden. And I'm just shaking it up there because of the liquidness of it. You just want to make sure all that pigment is mixed in nicely. And here I am, I'm discussing with my studio helper how we're going to move this, because she wasn't quite getting. And it's a bit confusing. So I was just explaining how we're going to keep rotating the canvases so that I have one on top and that the image lines up. So now I'm adding magenta to canvas number 2. And it's really not about composition right now. It's just trying to lay the underneath color. There's always an underpainting under every painting. You can't just go in and you can. I shouldn't say you can't. My process is there's always an underpainting. I love building up layers. I just find it gives it a lot of volume, a lot of depth, and it makes the viewer come in closer to kind of see how that composition was built. So now I'm just kind of smooshing around all my magenta. Okay, so here's the shaky camera part. Sorry, I should have put a little transition in there. And so I wanted my drips to go all the way from the top to the bottom. And so I'm just allowing that paint to fall down, giving my painting some really cool lines. Whether they'll show in the final piece, I don't know. But if I don't put them in, I'll never know. So it's just adding, always subtracting. So I don't want to go too crazy with the magenta. And so then I realized, oh darn, I need to smoosh some of that paint a little bit on canvas number 1. And I'm trying to keep myself off of a ladder. So I did grab the mop just to kind of quickly blend that in, leave some lines, but just kind of smoosh that around. This is not a mop painting by any stretch. It's just really about getting up there and just blending that in. I didn't want my lines to be that hard. But can you see the sheer size of this painting? There's one more canvas that goes on the bottom. It's massive. And thank goodness I have really high ceilings. And so I'm not sure why I didn't cut that part out. Oh, because I'm still working on my mop. So then now I'm just kind of spreading that magenta a little bit on the other side. There's not too much of it. I really don't want a pink painting or a purple painting, but it really gives it a cool little undertone. And so I'm just kind of spreading that around. I can't high speed through this because of the movement of the camera. We would all feel like we were on a roller coaster. So now I'm done with the mop and adding a little bit more magenta. And I think our camera is now back to being steady, which is a yay. Don't want anybody getting sick while they're watching my videos. I tried to leave a little bit more, this part anyway, just not to speed past it. I wanted you guys to be able to take in some of this process. And so just to explain the next stage, I'm not going to show how I do canvas 2 and 3 together because it pretty much looks exactly like canvas 1 and 2. But I do take, at this point, once this part is all done and each canvas kind of has all of those layers that you see. I'm so expressive when I talk, my eyes. I don't know why I have to bug my eyes out for. Anyway, it's all things you notice when you have to watch yourself back. Is canvas 1 will be moved up to level 2 in my studio, and I start to work on that individually. And so at that point, you'll get more a little bit of a better viewpoint because I have much more room to stand back, and I can take video of it as I'm building up. And so when my studio helper gets to come back down to my studio for the weekend is when my plan is to get 1, 2, and 3 done to a point where I think it's not finished, but the foundation has been laid, all my colors, all my composition is there. Then I can put them, start stacking them exactly how they are here, 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3, vice versa, and lay down my final marks. But just for time's sake, it's just easier to split them up. Lots of standing back. I wanted to show you that a little bit more of real time. This is the process that I have to go through to take it all in. Standing back, gauging where I'm supposed to be, double checking my images to make sure I'm on task. Even though it doesn't look anything like the image right now, I know what it takes to, how many layers I have to put in order to get to that final image. And so this is what I'm doing right now, double checking, mapping out. And so you can see here I was getting a bit confused. And so I'm looking at both photos, 1 and 2, to make sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I don't know what I'm looking for there, but and you can see I'm using them as a reference, double checking the points that I know that are more obvious, and then I can check my lines, visually see that I'm on task. And then I think with my eyes I just said, well, yeah, looks good. All right. All right, back on track. I keep adding more layers, and usually I double check when it comes to when I have to add more of that dark foundation. I want to make sure that I'm not adding it where I don't need to. And sorry, I'm going quiet because now yes, it does suck me in. Yes, even though it's painful to watch me paint back, I do rather enjoy watching the process. I love watching any artist paint. I do find it quite calming and relaxing. So, and plus, I don't really know what to say. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, voiceovers, they are a hoot. The next layer, when I start working them a little bit more individually, I think you'll kind of, I think there's one more video that I will do that shows the next layer when I start adding some of that more sky blue and where I start to carve in a little bit. And then I take them and work on them individually. So I am way behind on releasing these videos, but I only have time to do one video a week. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the images that I will post every now and then, not too often, of the images, which will be further along in the process than what you'll see here on YouTube. But YouTube, you get to see the video and how I got to that image. Again, if you notice, I don't have a headset on, and so I do work a lot slower when I'm not, when I don't have music on. The next video, I think I get, there's no conversation happening, so I think I have my headset on, and I try and get into the groove and get the layers done a little bit more quick. And oops, I just bumped into the wall. There was one point, I don't know if I show it, but I actually opened the door and walk out of my studio into the hallway so that I can kind of absorb that whole image of what I'm seeing. It was pretty funny. Again, it's time to stand back, really take in what I'm doing and what I'm seeing. I mean, it's not often that I'm going to have an 18-foot painting come my way. So I wanted to show a little bit more in this video how often I take time to stand back and just take everything in. It's such an important process that I don't want you to think that I'm just attacking this and not having those moments of just being stationary and absorbing the whole painting. And I'm also talking out. Okay, so this is the next thing I'm going to do. In my head, I'm constantly painting this painting. And it ends so quickly. I don't know how we got to the end already, but thank you so much.